Hello, this tutorial will go over some simple skills and tricks you can use in Illustrator to create images that can be used in your different advertisements that you create. So this is kind of create a basic strawberry shape. You can use these kind of ideas for creating everything. If you go back to Classroom, it has this assignment, which is due October 6th, you see here. You click on this PowerPoint, goes over all the different steps that I'm going to go over. I might refer back to this if I need to. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So click on File, New. Here, title this project is Strawberry Goodness. There. You want to leave the width as 8.5 by 11, height is 8.5 by 11, and make sure units is set to inches. Okay. You can leave it as portrait here. Click OK. It's going to give you a blank sheet of paper here. What we're going to start with doing is use the ellipse tool, hold the Shift and Alt key down together to draw from the center and draw a perfect circle. Now we want a large circle here because this is our basic strawberry shape. Okay. Go back, select the direct selection tool and select this bottom anchor point. Then we're going to drag it down a little bit. I tend to like to use the smart guidelines again. Yes, if you have the smart guidelines, then it tells you exactly, instead of kind of guessing which is vertical, it actually shows you that green line. Now I'm actually going to select the top anchor point tool and just drag that down a little bit. It creates our basic strawberry shape. Okay, now we need to go back to the selection tool and have this selected. Now we need to turn off the stroke. You don't need a stroke on it. Go back to the fill color. We want to make that a gradient. Okay, but we're going to adjust the gradient a little bit. We go back to radial type on our gradient. First color stop, it's going to be this basically CMYK red. Okay. Well, the second color stop is going to be a little bit darker red. That's already preset as your swatches. Okay. The last thing you would do is grab your gradient tool, and then we will move that basic center of the radial gradient up to the top here. That's all we're doing there. Okay. And since a lot of this you're creating in Illustrator, it's very cartoonish. It's not photorealistic shapes. But the use of gradients really enhances that illustrative kind of properties in Illustrator. Creating like simple, cartoonish kind of shapes. The gradient really helps with create some more realistic type of cartoon shapes. So that's what we're doing here. Then the next thing we want to do is we're going to create some seeds to go on our strawberry. So I'm actually going to select the ellipse tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We have the basic size of our strawberry. We're going to actually try a little bit, kind of a vertical ellipse here. Gives us the same settings as what we have set there. But then we're going to actually change that color. So we need the first color stop is actually this orange here. Then the second color stop is our lighter orange, the one next to it. Okay, and we want to actually have this as a linear. Okay, and then we're going to change this to, instead of horizontal kind of gradient you see here, it's kind of horizontal. We want to make it vertical. So we're going to go up to 90 like this, and then go back to our gradient tool. Again, make this go up. Alright. We'll finish our gradient tool. This is some small details. The last thing we're going to do is go back to select it, choose object, path, and then offset path. We want to set that as 5 points there. And you click on the preview, and it grabs our kind of like basic offset shape there. And there's one real quick tip. When you have color you've already created, like the strawberry, but you want to match that, you select what you want to match and grab the eyedropper tool and select that. It's a really easy way. It goes back to all the settings you've created in the first shape. So now we want to actually select that, and we want to group that together because that's a shape that we not want the parts to come apart. So we're going to group that together. Now we can actually zoom out. So then you're going to randomly, like you can tell on a real strawberry, there's no pattern to the way that the seeds are placed. So we're just going to place a few of these on there. So now I'm going to choose Edit, Copy, or Control C, and then I'm going to do Control V for paste. Okay, and I'm just going to do that a few times to place on a few different strawberries. Okay. You can see here, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'll just place some strawberries on here. I mean, some seeds on the strawberry. Excuse me. Then since we have some basic seeds placed on here, it doesn't have to be too many. You know, as long as we're kind of getting some seeds on there. The next thing we do is we're going to manage these layers that I like to do because it kind of creates some order to the chaos a little bit. So now I'm actually going to, there's a few of these, so I need to hold the Shift key down to just grab the dot next to it, and it's going to select that shape. Select all of these. Yep. Now I'm going to go back here and group them again. So I've grouped them, the individual one. Now I'm going to group the whole, all the seeds together. And I'm going to rename them as seeds, basically. Okay. Now that way, if I'm doing something and I actually select them there, it's going to just grab all of them together. But I can actually, if I ever need to go back to, I can individually adjust them this way through the layers panel. Okay. Now let's close that layers panel. I like to have it centered on the page a little, and then all I did is I hit Control 0. Yeah. Sorry. Now I'm actually going to create the chocolate that's dripping on the bottom of your strawberry. What we're going to do is we're going to use the pencil tool, because the pencil tool is great because it creates some organic kind of shapes. One setting I want to let you know of is that instead of following exactly the way your pencil draws, I'll bump this up and actually show you. If you lay these both down, and then I draw a shape, and I'm closing the shape by holding the Alt key. You can see here it changes my little shape underneath our pencil tool. Closes that shape, and it creates a bunch of little points to create that. So if I actually draw something and I put like a little weird thing in there, if I kind of mess up, this can actually do exactly that. But now, if I use the tolerance setting of the fidelity, like I like that 5, maybe want to choose the smoothest down up here, bring it up, choose OK. So now if I actually draw a shape and I kind of bump my hand a little bit in there, and then I'll close the shape, it's going to smooth that. It's going to follow it a little more, not as closely, and it's going to create less anchor points there. It's going to create kind of more of a smooth shape. So if your hand's a little jerky, or again, if you don't have a stylus, then this is a good way to get around that. So I'm actually going to go back to the settings that I liked over here. Fidelity is 5, and then what I'm going to do here is create kind of like a highlight effect on the stopper. So I'm just going to kind of like select a few of these. It's kind of like highlighting. Close that shape. So then you can see there I was a little bit off, but it jumped back and found that kind of you kind of rounded out a little bit the shape there. So now we need to create kind of like a highlighting effect. So I'll go back to selection, grab the gradient, and these both need to be white. These color stops here. Sorry. White, and I want to change this as 10%. Oh, so this is the inside, so I need to change it to 40%. The outside is again white, but the outside is a little bit lighter with a 10% gradient. Now this thing, it looks a little strange, but now I need to go back to my layers panel and make sure that this highlight is behind the seeds, like this. Okay, and then I guess I can go back to this and yeah, it looks a little better with the radio, I guess, on there. Okay, so it's kind of like a highlighting effect on your. So for instance, like this seed shape, I want it to be more in the center. Then I go back to layers, and if I can select that exact shape there, or I can go back to just use a direct selection tool. So selecting this, and that tells me exactly what seed it's on. Now I need to grab the whole thing. Now I actually just move that, and now it's independently of all the shapes there. Okay, that's one way you can do that to go back to select each one individually. So close that group there, and now we're going to create the chocolate on the bottom here that I talked about before. So you're just going to create kind of like organic kind of chocolate shape here. It's kind of dripping off of your kind of shape there. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the gradient tool, like I talked about. It's a really good tool. I didn't like that too much, so I'm going to do this again. Close that shape there. So it looks like, it looked a little better that way. So now again, I go back to selection tool and the gradients, and now I'm going to choose this as a brown. Okay, so I'll choose this lighter color brown, and then the darker color brown. Okay. And then this needs to be, again, linear, but I'm going to go back to 0 to make it horizontal gradient. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to create kind of like this shadow effect on it. Okay, that is easy to do. You actually just select it, now hit Control C, and now I'm going to hit Control F to place it right in front, like right directly on top of the original object. You can't really tell it's done that, but if you click and drag it up, you can tell it's actually created another copy there. Now this one, I'm actually going to use a solid color, and it's going to be a little darker. This is the darker color brown. Okay, it's kind of like a shadow effect, but again, I want this on the bottom. Okay. You can do that again with going to just selecting it and choose objects, arrange, and then like all this kind of stuff, bring to forward, or object arrange, bring to back. But I kind of like to use the I like using the, because it kind of does this sometimes. Then I like this the layers panel, because it's a little more straightforward. Like for instance, that kind of got kind of screwy there. But this is a little more straightforward, so that way I know exactly where I'm placing things. But you can do whichever way you want. Now we need to create some highlights on this chocolate. So we're going to go back to the pencil tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to create kind of like this freeform, kind of like, again, hold this Alt key down. And then we're going to create kind of, and if it does this, like I will zoom into this and create kind of this weird thing. It actually jumps from where you are to the endpoint, creates a straight line. But I don't want that little jog in my shape, so I go back to delete anchor point and delete that out. It creates a nice smooth curve from where the last anchor point I created. So now I need to actually select that again, go back to the selection tool, selected it, and go back to the the linear type, and go back to make it white like it's a highlight. This needs to be 10. And the second one needs to be white again with 40. Creates kind of like this little highlight there. Okay, and I'm going to do that with the little bumps here at the top here. So I'm just doing a quick little thing here. And this doesn't have to be like great or anything. You can see that I'm just creating these. Just creating kind of like these highlight things here. These highlight shapes. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And maybe I didn't like this, so I can go back and anytime I don't like it, then I just select the direct selection tool and maybe take that out or maybe make it different shaped here. For instance, I might take that one out. I don't like it too much. Let's actually just delete this one altogether. I didn't like it too much. So hit the backspace key to delete that out. So now we're going to use the pencil tool again and just draw that out there. Okay. See how it looks. Yeah, it looks okay. That looks good. Then we create. Again, I'm just not happy with that. So let's do that again. Again, definitely delete that point, the last one there. Okay, kind of created a weird shape there. Yeah, I guess I'm okay with that. And if I need to, I can go back and delete that. I may want to make it just a round shape. Yeah, I like that a little better. Okay. So I should have done that the first time. So now we have our highlighting on this. Okay, we have our shadow. And now we need to create kind of like this drip effect that you can see here. It's kind of dripping. Okay. And we're going to do that by using the pencil tool again. Creating kind of like this drip. And again, if it does this thing right here, then you just go back and delete that last anchor point there. And I'll just modify this a little bit. So it creates kind of like, I selected it, select the whole thing there. And I can use the eyedropper tool to go back and actually select what I want. Okay? And then maybe just put on the highlight again. Do a little highlight there. And then I go back to the highlighting color. Okay. So there we go. Let's create this highlight shape. The last thing we're going to do is actually create the, you can see here I'm creating these leaves here. It's actually a pretty cool effect in Photoshop. I'm sorry, in Illustrator. So we're going to actually create a basic shape here. I'll zoom in. Create a perfect circle here. So now we're going to modify this a little bit. Select that point. Bring it down a little bit using the smart guidelines. Now if I want to actually make a corner of that, a quick way to do it is use the curved anchor point tool. Click once, it creates a corner. Now I might want to move that down a little bit more. Yeah. And I'll make this a solid color. I'm going to make it like this light green here. Okay. So now I'm going to hit the Control C and then Control F to be right on top. Then I'm going to move that up just a little bit here. See, now I'm going to make that a little bit darker green. Okay, and now I'm going to rotate it. You can see here I'm just rotating a bunch of these. Okay. So now I'm going to actually use the Control C, Control F again. Now I'm going to actually hit the rotate. Choose the Alt key to show it where to rotate from. And this little trick I learned, just scroll the wheel on your mouse, and that's a really quick way to actually more intuitively find out which you're gonna have to use the preview because otherwise you have no idea. Choose a preview, and that way you can actually click on the angle, and then you can find a rotation angle that you like. So you can click OK. Now I want this one to be like the dark green there. I'm going to do that one more time. Control C and Control F. Then I'm going to rotate it again from here. I'll just move that a little bit. And this needs to be this lighter color green. Sorry. OK, not the lighter color green. Okay. It kind of creates this kind of leaf effect a little bit. So now I would select all of these. I want to make them a little bit thinner there. Okay. Now this is a really cool effect in Photoshop. You click on the brushes tool panel. You select everything, all the different leaf, the entire leaf shape you're creating. Drag this over, and you're creating a brush. So you're going to go click Art Brush and click OK. Now these are the exact settings you want to. You might need. They're really tricky to play with. So yeah, these are the settings you want. Click OK. Now, if I deselect everything, I'm going to do something really quick. Is I'm going to use the pen tool and create a stem on our basic strawberry here. So I'll close the shape. I'm going to use the Convert Anchor Point tool to actually make that instead of just a rectangle shape. I want that to curve in. I want this one to curve in just slightly. This one to curve in also. And this one to curve in. And these at the top. If you just click on that, it lets you modify them individually. For instance, like this. And now I can click on that and bring it in a little bit. I want it to move up that much. Yeah. So then that's our basic stem there. So now what we're going to do is you're going to zoom out again. And it's fine, it's a little turn like that. So we actually can select our brush tool. Now we need to select our brush that we just created. Select that. So now just draw, and it actually creates that, uses that shape basically to create that basic idea of what you're drawing there. Okay, it's that simple. And that's a really cool trick in Illustrator, and it basically just uses that shape to, create your artistic brush. Okay, and that I guess completes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.